She is?
Getting loosened up for the meeting.
I spent like 10 hours in a car today,
Oh,
which is why I'm not there
Good
with you.
evening,
I was hoping
everybody.
to be
Today
in
is
person
Monday,
today.
March 1st. No, it's not March 1st.
15th.
It's the 15th. It says the first on the agenda here.
yeah.
Okay, it's March 15th, 2021, and this is the Moscow City Council meeting. With that, Gina?
Good evening, everyone, and happy early St. Patrick's Day. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Gina.
You're welcome, sir.
And with that, I would, first thing on the agenda is the consent items.
I would move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Okay. The motion to approve the consent agenda was made by Art and a second by Maureen. Now we will start the roll with Ann. No volume, Ann. I've seen your lips, Ann, but you don't have your volume on.
I was unmuted. I thought I.
Aye. Gina.
Aye.
Sandra.
Aye.
Art.
Aye.
And Maureen.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. The second item, staff recognition report. Gary, do you have anything for us this evening?
No report tonight, sir.
No reports. Okay, mayor's appointments, and I do have one. I'm proud to have consideration for this council. Samantha Martinet is the Farmers Market Commission. She will be the Chamber of Commerce rep, expiration in 12/31 of 2021.
I would move approval of that appointment.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Art and a second by Gina to approve Samantha Martinet as our Farmers Market Commission, the Chamber rep. I will start to roll with Maureen.
Aye.
Ann.
Aye, and congratulations to her on her new role.
Thank you. Gina.
Aye.
Sandra.
Aye.
And Art.
Aye.
Okay, and we have Samantha with us. Come on up here, Samantha, if you would, so we can all see what she looks like and everything, so.
Sort of.
Good evening, Mayor Lambert and City Council. I'm very excited to be the new Executive Director at the Moscow Chamber, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to support the city on this commission.
Well, Samantha, and Samantha goes by Sam, that's what I call her all the time, and I think most people do. We appreciate the volunteerism of everybody that serves on any of our commissions, and congratulations to you about being our Chamber Executive Director. We look forward to having a collaborative time with the Chamber as always, and look very forward to working with you.
Thank you. I look forward to working with all of you.
Very well. Thanks, Sam. Okay, with that, we'll move on to item number 4, which is public comment. In response period, we always allocate 15 minutes for this, and we'll let folks get up and tell us what's on their mind, what their thoughts are, as long as it is not on this evening's agenda, and or something in front of planning and zoning and or the Board of Adjustment. With that being said, any real action items that we have this evening, there will be time for those to comment if they wish. So with that, please come up, and I'll give you 3 minutes. You can state your name and let us know what's on your mind. And with that, we have nobody rushing up here to say anything, so I guess I will move on. You can tell it's spring break week. I think we got a lot of folks on vacation or out of town this week. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to item number 5, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. We have Renee with us as well as Mitch. So we will be, hello Mitch. So we will let Renee start off as soon as Lori gets things going up here.
Can you hear me, you guys all right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So while she's studying out Mitch's presentation, I just wanted to go through a few things. Our fiscal 2020 audit has been completed. For those who may not know, this is an annual process that we start in September, and it usually ends in the middle of March, involving not only the finance department, but many other associates in the city. And we give them our thanks for helping us with this. Our audit committee also met last week to finalize their review. And the document that's, I think, attached to the agenda is the final draft of the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, or CAFR, for your acceptance tonight. And then after the acceptance, we'll forward the CAFR to the Government Finance Officers Association to hopefully receive the Achievement Award for the 18th consecutive year. With that, I'd like to introduce Mitch Marks from Presnell Gage, who will present our audit results.
Welcome, Mitch.
Thank you. We have issued our report this year. I'm usually in person and do a PowerPoint, but I am not technology enough savvy to do that regular PowerPoint. Responsible for the opinion letters in here. Everything else is the responsibility of the city. So we've got 3 opinion letters. This year, there wasn't, when we did the audit, there was no new accounting policies or anything that we had to worry about. The application of existing policies hadn't changed during the year. We noted no transactions entered into by the governmental unit during the year for which there is a lack of authoritative guidance or consensus, and all significant transactions have been recognized in the financial statements in the proper period. One of the things we find, like to congratulate Sarah and Renee and the staff. This is a very clean audit overall. I can't remember how many adjustments, but anything we had was pretty minimal in the way of changing from the records that you had to what we ended up with to the financial statement, which is really good because you are making decisions based on the information they're providing you on a regular basis. And so there's not a lot of change from what you see at September 30th in that information versus this audit. So that's really good. Like we always say, this is when we do an audit, we don't look at everything. So it's we provide a reasonable but not an absolute assurance that the financial statements are free of material misstatement. And that's always the fun one that everybody thinks we look at everything, but one, we don't have enough time, and 2, the cost would be astronomical. We gain an understanding of your internal control system, walk through it, help document ourselves, and then portion. As I mentioned, there's three opinion letters. The opinion letter on the main or basic financial statements is on page 18 of your report. That is an unmodified opinion, which is the best you can get. We did not come across anything that we felt the city was not preparing the financial statements in accordance with the general accepted accounting principles. Nothing was materially misstated. Because you still have a single audit, the next opinion noted there is on page 132, and that is the accordance with uniform guidance. That's the city expended over $750,000 of federal funds. That is also an unmodified report. As we did our testing, nothing came to our attention that the city was not spending those monies appropriately, or their system to track for those was not appropriately established. And your third opinion letter is on page 130. That has to do with the general internal controls and compliance of the city, and we did not come across anything that we felt that, again, that would cause an issue, and that's an unmodified opinion. This audit also includes the Urban Renewal Agency as a component unit. So when you look at this, that's in addition. It's not part of your main books, but you see that. The management discussion analysis is always a good point to read. It's got a lot of detail about what goes on in the city and what's some of the reasons why the financial statements have gone up or down, or things that have happened. Followed by that is your basic financial statements. The government-wide, which is a statement of net position, and the statement of activities. Just a couple of highlights. That statement of net position. On page 43, it shows you have a little over $36 million of cash and investments that's unrestricted at September 30th. The restricted cash and investments are about almost $32 million. Your capital assets net of accumulated depreciation is about $89 million, and that'd be everything from City Hall to your police cars to the water sewer systems and those costs. And the city actually participates in the firefighters retirement fund. That is one of the few funds in Idaho that is overfunded. You actually have an asset on your financial statements for about $543,000, which is a pretty good deal. because you don't see that too often, because down below in the statement of net position for liabilities, the city has about a $6.4 million liability on the regular PERSI. And that's that the state's retirement is funded over 90%, I think, at this time. And so the city of Moscow's portion is $6.4 million, which is quite a bit. So that would be, if everybody had to pay up at September 30th, that would be the city's portion. That's one of those numbers, they make us report it, but you're never going to have to write the check on that day for that, but we have to show that. The city has about 4 outstanding long-term debts, and those are noted there, and the compensated absences that the city has are about $964,000. That's the amounts that you accrued that you owe people at the end of the year for paid time off. So if everybody had left on that date, that would be your liability. The statement of activities, for this year, you had about a $1.1 million of income in your governmental funds, and your business activities are about 4.8. That's the water, sewer, sanitation type funds. Page 46. Like I say, the cities, that's more your day-to-day operations other than the proprietary funds. That's like general, streets, recreation, those type of funds. At the end of the year is about $22 million of fund equity in there. The general fund was about $844,000. So the rest of that is either restricted, committed, or assigned for other purposes that you have established at year end, or that the funding sources restricted at year end. So I think that's a pretty healthy fund balance. When you get back to the governmental fund balance or governmental funds income statement on page 48, it comes up with a loss about $857,000, and that's back to a little bit different in change in accounting. There's a reconciliation after that page that shows the difference between that and about the $1.1 million I mentioned earlier that the general or the governmental funds had. You don't have any funds with a deficit, which is also good. Basically, the business activity on page 50 to 51 is going to match what you had on 43 and 45. All your funds have done well. Governmental or proprietary type also. Like I said, the adjustments we had were minimal. We proposed, like I said, none noted, but it was more of a, if they were reclassified entries. I can't remember what we had, Renee, do you recall? Put the pressure on you.
I think that the only real entries that we had were related to fixed assets and to conforming to GASB or GAP,
Yep.
Difference between governmental and business type reporting.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's what the GASB 34 statement ones there would be those changes. So like I said, the city has a pretty good, clean set of books that makes that easier to get from your set of books to right in the financial statements. The city has 2 internal service funds, the fleet and the information services or systems on page 103 and 104 if you're looking for that. And that's those are included in the governmental activities early in the statements. Those 2 funds have about $7 million of cash and investments a year end, and their net income for the year was about $1.9 million. And like I mentioned earlier, that the CFA is the state schedule of expenditures of federal awards. You had about $978,000 expended this year, and your big fund was the Highway Planning and Construction Grant Program. In the last couple of years, it's been the water fund, sewer fund, where you had borrowed the money from DEQ. That program is for 2020 is pretty much you did not borrow anything from that. So that is not your big fund or program for last year. That I know I talk really fast. No, did anybody have any questions or?
A comment I have, Mitch, is that, and this is for Renee as well, you mentioned about this is the 18th year in a row that we've had this excellent report on CAPR. And a year ago at this time, when we were starting our new endeavors with the COVID-19, we had no clue where we would be at the end of our fiscal year. And so we were scrambling, because of the unknown, and felt pretty good about how it all turned out for all of us. We ended up pretty doggone good shape. So I just wanted to make that statement, and I appreciate the comments. Council, anybody have a comment they'd like us? Or a question for Mitch and/or Renee? Well, Mitch, Gina,
Well, I was just going to make a motion.
okay.
I move that we accept the City of Moscow Audited Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for FY 2020 as presented.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Gina and a second by Sandra to accept the City of Moscow Audited Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for fiscal year 2020 as presented. I will start the roll with Ann,
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Art,
Aye.
and Maureen.
Aye.
Thank you very much, Renee and Mitch. We appreciate that presentation. It's always kind of fun when we have you actually in the hot seat here at
Yeah.
City Hall, but this will be how it has to work for us. But thank you very much.
Your Honor,
Thank
if I
you.
may,
Gary wants to say something.
I would like to thank the Finance Department for all the work they do at year end. From the time October 1st hits, it seems like Finance's job, especially Renee's, is to account for everything, put year end together, and then start working with the auditors on putting the CAFR together. The CAFR, as you know, is a document that goes beyond an audit. When we go out for our bond rating, things like that, there is enough information in that CAFR that the bond rating agencies look at it, and they have very few questions about our financial viability. So congratulations, and thanks also to Mitch for his many years of conducting the audit.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, with that, we will move on to item number 6, which is the City of Moscow Restroom Facility, Family-Friendly Neutral Conversion Plan. And we have Jen Piffner with us this evening to explain this plan. So Jen, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll just pull up my presentation. And I believe I need to share the screen too. Sorry, I'm too short and there's a glare. Just give me just a second. Okay, thank you. Yes, so we have a gender-neutral restroom facility conversion plan. Again, I'm too short, I need to tuck this in here. The background on this project is, it was late summer, early fall, where the idea of doing some gender-neutral restrooms in city facilities came from the Human Rights Commission. At that time, we did a review of what other municipalities in Idaho, how they manage that situation. We since have also conducted an inventory of the existing City of Moscow restroom facilities and presented that information on November 2nd to the council. Council said, yes, please move forward with the plan, which we've been working on since then. All of this ties into City of Moscow Title 10, Chapter 19. This is our anti-discrimination clause that you've seen in affordable housing, personnel policies, and several other areas. So this was the basis for a lot of the work we did as well. So the facility inventory makes for 4 categories, really. We break it down into these different areas. What we've got are parks portables, city-occupied facilities, and then city-owned facilities. The city-owned facilities, as you see, it's the 1912 Center, the library, Virgil Phillips Farm, the animal shelter, and the Intermodal Transit Center. These are buildings that the city owns, but we don't necessarily occupy, but they do have occupants in them. So that was our categorization for the project. An overview of those facilities show we have about what we had, it's a rough estimation of about 95% of all of our facilities already have private single-use facilities. They may be signed for male and or female separately. And in those instances, we're looking at perhaps changing locks, changing signage, something simple. But when it comes to the actual constructed facilities, about 95% of those are easily managed to turn into a gender-neutral or a family-friendly type restroom. The other 5% are specific to downtown, our newest restroom facility in the downtown corridor there, and then Mountain View Park, but we have some good news about those as we go through the presentation. Specifically, when we looked at the plan, there were several items that are of the utmost importance. When you see public access and employee access, that also ties into, now that we're looking at an actual plan and an implementation for that plan, is how we implement that working with the public and the employees of these different buildings. We know the mechanics of the thing, we know where the facilities are, how many there are, what it takes to make them either a multi-use facility or to do a remodel or something like that, but making sure that the staff that works in that building and the public that accesses those buildings are comfortable and have the facilities they need to use. So this also came into play with available fixtures. Safety was a high concern as well. Police Chief James Fry checked in with the Idaho Chiefs of Police Association. Didn't find that there were any negative issues reported in instances of family-friendly or gender-neutral restrooms. Also, Chief Fry works with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I usually just say FBI, I think, in determining if there are any significant safety issues, and none have come to light. User groups, this talks about that implementation piece specifically. We've got 1912 Center with actual staff in the building, and then many different user groups of that facility. The library has actually already reached out to us. They're doing a bit of remodeling on some restrooms. A significant portion of their facilities are already single-user facilities available to multiple users. They do have a lobby library that they're looking at and have reached out to us so that we can be on the same page when it comes to signage and adjustments, those types of things. And then the other items as well. We've got quite a few people through the Intermodal Transit Center, and then the Moscow Volunteer Department may not occupy specifically a building, but working with those folks who use those facilities is key. And then, of course, the Human Rights Commission, that was the group that brought this idea forward then, back, like I said, late summer, early fall. So looking at those different categories, parks facilities, actually we're doing quite well for parks facilities. Several of our permanent installations have female and male. They also have family restrooms already installed. That's East City Park, Moscow School District Playfields is another great example. Where we don't have permanent facilities in our parks, we have portables. All of those are single-user facilities, very simple for a multitude of users to use those. One fun note here is our Indian Hills Park, and at committee I was off by a year. This was originally scheduled for 2023. A grant came along. I thought it was mistakenly for 2022. That'll actually be installed here in 2021. So the Indian Hills permanent restroom structure will be in this summer. And then if we look to the other side, we've got Gormley Park, Kiwanis, Rotary, and Lena Whitmore. All of those are single-user facilities. It'll just take a signage change. All of those have the locking mechanisms in place. Use capacity issues specific to parks include the Mountain View Park facility. We had scheduled an ADA update and some design work for that in FY21. This is another update I have for you from committee. We actually, through a CDBG grant, were able to program those actual ADA construction plans this summer. And then we also are taking a look at, on top of those ADA construction remodel pieces we're doing, what it would take to add the doors and the walls to create that single-user facility for multi-user capacity. So the good news on the Mountain View Park and the Indian Hills Park. Downtown facility, that one is still a little bit trickier. We do have an opportunity starting this late summer, fall of 21 for the downtown revitalization planning process. Taking a look at what that could include for restrooms. Parks has already looked at too, what's the footprint of the current restroom? Do we have space in the area? Just preliminary type things to really get an idea of what that may take down the road, but definitely more to come on the downtown facility. These are all of the city-occupied facilities that require no change. They're already a single facility, multi-user availability type setup. A couple of things you'll notice is City Hall first, second, and third floor. We have some options there. In the original plan, it said, okay, let's take second floor, because if we were to convert anything in City Hall, that would be the most expensive. So as we look at that implementation plan, what works well for the public and employees, that cost may come down. We may look at different options for how we put that together. New police services, those types of things are already programmed in. So I will say police department west restroom, that would be the existing police department. We'll probably move those lower down the list as far as priorities because we will be moving out of that facility. If it's something we can do in the short term and is no cost. This, for example, is already in place. We'll move forward with them, but spending time and energy and money into converting other restrooms. We will save that for the new facility. So city-occupied facilities that would require some changes. Now, these are, on the left, you've got the lock and signage change. Again, these are primarily single-use facilities that are just signed for male or female. By changing the signage, it's still a single-use facility, but now anyone can use that facility. So those are the options we have on the left there. Again, you'll see City Hall, second floor. We'll work through that in implementation. Signage only. These are facilities that are already single-user. They already have a lock. We just need to change the sign on them. So very simple changes in those areas. Our city-owned facilities, again, library, 1912, Virgil Phillips, those types of things. No change. Those ones on the left already have, again, single user, locking mechanism, signage probably says family-friendly. I haven't looked at all of these ones, but I believe that's how they're signed. And then on the right, we've got the library lobby, which we're working with the library folks on with that. Signage for the 1912 Center first floor. And then we have the Huggins House. It's a house that the city owns, but it's a private residence, so we wouldn't be addressing anything there. So we've updated the proposed timeline based on those changes to the remodels and permanent installations coming this summer. So really, with council's approval, we can move forward with the lock and signage update. Estimated cost is about $3,000. And we would, again, bold and italics, work with user groups through implementation to make sure that goes smoothly. The Mountain View Park remodel, we will have costs for the additional remodel and construction that goes along with those ADA updates soon. Indian Hills Park permanent installation. That one we, like I said, scheduled for 2021. We did discuss ordering that facility because shipping times are taking quite a bit longer for materials for that. So ideally 2021, pending shipping, I should note. And then what we'd like to do is develop a resolution for council's consideration to address future facilities that we build, to ensure that we address these issues up front and make sure we take care of those as we're building things. And then future planning would be that addition or renovation to the downtown restroom facility. So. Any questions?
I've got a question for you, Jen, and it has to do with the Mountain View Park, because we got this ADA grant that we're going to get to upgrade that. That bathroom in Park has been in use for decades. Could you tell me when that bathroom was built originally? Does anybody know that? I'm sorry about doing that to you.
Sorry, I had to look to
It had be in the
Mr.
80s,
Riedner, and he
maybe,
is
70s?
also
It was
saying.
before I started in 92.
Okay.
Okay, so the only reason I said that, and you did an excellent presentation, and you talk extremely fast, so I wanted to make sure.
Apologize.
And I mean, and that's not a slam against you, Jen. I appreciate it because you were very concise and you're really businesslike when you do that. But I just wanted to point that out, that
Yep.
that bathroom, and the reason it needs the ADA is because it was built prior to some of the ADA rules and regulations that we've had, and so we want to update that. And so we're taking the opportunity with that update to finish it to make it work for us. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I just wanted to ask you that.
You bet.
And I'm sorry about putting you on the spot about that, but.
If I could add
It's-
some more detail on the Mountain View restroom. We've got the ADA upgrade, received a grant for that. Bill Belknap met with the architect who's working on the project, and there is some fairly extensive renovations that'll be taken, but was not able. He just met with him this very end of last week. So we believe we'll be able to get it done within budget, but there could be some overrun. We're just not sure what that is, but wanted to let you know that we should be able to accommodate that in that restoration process.
Well, I'll be with you in just a second, Maureen. It's been very, if you look at the cost basis on making these simple changes, it's real easy to do. And so, that's always a concern for everybody. You know, what's this thing going to cost us, so on and so forth. So great, makes sense. Maureen.
So I just want to be clear, are we converting any multi-stall bathrooms to family-friendly bathrooms?
No, these, Mountain View would be one that we would convert, but we're turning into that single-use facility. So there are no multi-stall restrooms that would become open to multiple users.
Thank you.
Yes.
And that's a good question, because I did have one person ask me about that, Maureen. Thank you. Gina.
Jen, I know you answered this question for me already in administrative, but will you answer it again,
Yes.
please? And let me know who exactly the committee was that looked at this, who all
You bet. So we had Jay Lewis as our facilities supervisor, working with Dave Schott, who's our assistant Parks and Recreation director, as well as Dwight Curtis, who is our Parks and Recreation director. So they are all things city facilities related, everything, all of these categories, that is their purview, and they oversee those. So
Okay.
that was the group, and then I helped in, of course, with, okay, what other considerations do we need to think about? Some, if we need to look at public outreach as we move forward, I'll be involved in that piece as well. And so we'll work together on that to make sure that, one, the plan is solid, and two, the implementation is well thought out.
Right on. Thank you.
Okay, Maureen.
So I have one more question about Mountain View, because if we convert those two restrooms, I've never been in the men's restroom, but I know that the women's restroom is multi-stall, and I guess my question is, if we make that, will we still be able to deal with the flow?
So what we would end up with there is there are two fixtures in each, the men and the women's side. We would turn that into 4 restrooms with walls and private doors with locks to accommodate. We'd still have the same number of fixtures, it would just be broken up differently.
4 stalls, 4 doors, 4 locks.
Okay. Yep. All using the same sink?
No, those would be individual.
Oh,
Part of
okay,
the
there we
remodel.
go.
Part of the
Totally
remodel.
private and enclosed.
Part of the
Each-
remodel thing.
Yeah,
Oh, thank you.
yeah.
Okay, Jen, I'm going to ask if there's anybody from the public here who'd like to comment on this, if they've got anything that they'd like to add or questions that they would like to bring up for us at this time before we make a deliberation for the council. Is there anybody out there who would like to come up and have any thoughts on this with us, share with us, concerns or anything? Nope, I guess we're good to go, so.
Okay. I move to approve the City of Moscow restroom facility, family-friendly, gender-neutral conversion plan.
Second.
Give it to Sandra.
Oh, she thinks.
Okay, we've got a motion by Maureen and a second by Sandra to approve the City of Moscow's restroom facility friendly gender-neutral conversion plan. I'll start to roll with you, Ann.
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Art,
Aye.
and Maureen.
Aye.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Jen, for that
you.
presentation.
Thank you, Jen.
Okay. With that, we will move on to our next item, which is consideration and resolution allowing temporary business extension into Main Street right away. We got Gary reading it with us this evening that will do that presentation. Gary, you've got the floor.
Let's see. I see my,
It's great having Lori here so she can help us out with these things.
She was on her feet before we even
It's
knew we
like
had a
having
problem.
the audio-visual club
Yeah.
in junior high again.
thank you.
Well, you just had to
Well, that's
walk up
okay,
there.
it's all in the presentation, Lori.
Didn't need to tell us.
Okay. Okay, thank you. As you saw in the council committee staff report that we presented in the packet, what we're looking at is expanding the downtown right-of-way, similar to the method in which we expanded downtown right-of-way with council's resolution, suspending portions of the city code relating to sidewalk cafes. I'll go through quickly some different examples of what was done last year, and I believe that that will help illustrate what worked, what didn't. So this is in front of Bootzer's. You can see a fairly expansive sidewalk cafe. This is in front of Coulter's Creek, in front of Bloom. As you can see, that's New St. Andrews frontage, and we'll go into the particulars in a few moments of that expansion. This is Casa Lopez. You can see that there is what appears to be a fairly narrow walkway, but one of the things that we asked for authority from the council was to allow a 4-foot pedestrian pathway to allow for pedestrian access in order to accommodate more space to allow social distancing because of the COVID-19 crisis. You'll also see right off on the curb, there are some street signs or parking signs that restrict parking to a pickup area, which was another fairly innovative aspect to the program last year. So since takeout early in March, April, through probably most of the summer, was the main business that these restaurants engaged in. There were just pickup spots. Parking was taken out and allowed pickup spots in order to accommodate that takeout. Here we have in front of Mikey Zero's, just another example of a expanded sidewalk cafe. This is along 6th Street next to One World Cafe. As you can see, and those of you who've walked along there know that it's a fairly narrow pathway. So having extra tables along the 6th Street right-of-way really can congest that area, especially with the street trees in the public right-of-way. It's being addressed this year with some innovative, I don't call it foam almost, that the street department is installing around the base of the trees. It's non-toxic to the tree, which will help with access along that right-of-way. And this is an example. This is Myelina at the southeast corner of 6th and Main. And this is in front of Vine, which is fairly unique. As you can see, there's a jersey rail that allows the sidewalk cafe to expand, and the public access is through the middle of the sidewalk cafe itself. So let me go through those one more time. Okay, this one I failed to comment on too much. This is right in front of Cafe Artiste, Tapped, the Mad Greek, and the former kitchen counter. One of the options that businesses were allowed, restaurants were allowed, was to take the entire sidewalk right-of-way, and then if some of them got together, then we would protect pedestrians as they walk in the parking lane, and would allow those businesses to have a contiguous sidewalk cafe in front of their business. This is one of the examples that jersey rail, although it's very effective, isn't the most aesthetically pleasing thing in the way. It does protect the people who are using the sidewalk or using the right-of-way to walk in. However, this is one of those situations as staff started looking at, okay, what changes could we possibly propose to council on a permanent basis? This is not one of them that we wanted to put in as a permanent resolution, mainly because it congests the area, it takes away parking, and can be problematic, especially in the 3rd to 6th Street corridor for farmers market. So those are just some examples of situations that we dealt with. Now, some of the things that we asked the council to allow us to suspend last year had to do with that a sidewalk cafe had to be abutting the property or the restaurant which was using the sidewalk cafe, which has typically been meant to say from the wall of the building across its frontage. Last year, council allowed restaurants to go to their neighbors, and if they could obtain authority from those neighbors, that they could expand beyond just the facial footprint of their building. There were some situations that, especially in areas where we had bulb outs, which allow additional sidewalk in front of a business, and how it expanded in certain places, that has been addressed, and we have indicated as we develop the program for this year, there will need to be a signed document. It's not just directly in front of the business, it is the view shed, if you will, into the right-of-way. So we've dealt with that, we think. We're also asking that sidewalk cafe permits, the fee for sidewalk cafe permits is waived this year. It is not a significant source of revenue to the city, as well as it is an area where you can provide some relief to these small business owners. Alcohol licensing is a little bit different story. If you look, as I indicated, take this example that you have on the screen in front of you. That would be considered a contiguous area in front of Cafe Artiste. In other words, the Sidewalk Cafe expands out. There's nothing in between Cafe Artiste and their Sidewalk Cafe. As you go out into the right-of-way, then you are walking adjacent to the street, actually. State law, or should I say the Alcohol Beverage Commission, there we go. Trying to get to the right one here. There we go. The Alcohol Beverage Commission has indicated that although last year the rules were applied, I think, fairly discretionary. So a lot of discretion was left up to the cities. One of the things that we're checking with Captain Brad Doty of the Idaho State Police Alcohol Beverage is to find out whether contiguous means that the entire area has to be part of the Sidewalk Cafe. As you can see in front of Vine here, you have tables on both sides of the traveled area of the sidewalk, which might be argued that that is not contiguous. So we want to make sure that ABC signs off on that before we issue permits this year. We thought we had a scheduled conversation with him today. That did not happen, so we'll be getting that the rest later this week. In addition, there are some things that are problematic. For instance, if you take this area here to the right of Bootzer's, there is a doorway that leads to an upper apartment, and then there is an adjacent business that we need to find out again from Captain Doty whether contiguous means that there can't be access into that apartment door. So we are trying to define that with ABC to make sure that our businesses aren't put in a situation where they're violating their permit. And I think I already mentioned that, the other was that our current law under the code is that liquor can only be served by a full-service restaurant. That is something that council suspended last year in light of COVID. As I indicated, as far as permanent changes, because COVID is still a thing and we expect that people will still be wanting, even if it may not be regulated, will likely want to be more socially distant, at least for the upcoming year. So this seemed like a good thing to do to continue the same expansion that we had last year. The resolution that was handed out to you tonight reflects almost exactly the verbiage from last year's resolution. Last year, the Sidewalk Cafe season ended October 4th. We had an unseasonably mild fall, and the council extended that through December 1st. Because we never know when the snows are going to show up, what council did last year was extend it to December 1st unless my office terminated it early because there were safety concerns such as piled snow, ice, that sort of thing. So the resolution that you have in front of you today extends it through December 1st unless, of course, we run into some weather issues that it needs to be terminated earlier. So with that, be happy to answer any questions. Again, as we're working through the alcohol regulations, we don't have a full package to bring to you tonight as to how the alcohol regulations will be applied, but everything else has worked fairly well.
Questions for Gary, and then I'm going to ask for if there's any public comment. Maureen?
I just want to say, I think it worked really well last year, and I think it is something that helps our small businesses, and I'm totally in favor of it.
Gary, could we get Ann's face up, because I can't see her. Ann, did you have any questions?
I have one when you're ready.
Yeah, I did. So, thank you, Gary. I agree. I mean, I thought that this worked out overall really nicely. You did touch on this, and the definition of continuous, but I wanted to clarify. So what assurance do business owners have that neighboring businesses won't be encroaching on their frontage, as we had an issue with last year? As everyone on the council knows that, that was an ongoing issue in at least one area in downtown.
That's a good question.
Good question, yeah. Did you get that, Gary?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on it for us, please?
Well,
The neighboring business, the
yes.
view shed thing you were talking about.
Exactly. The situation we ran into last year was, especially in places where you have bulb outs, that is public right-of-way. In downtown, it is from storefront to storefront. So the businesses on the east side, wherever their front door ends and the sidewalk begins, is public right-of-way all the way to the west side. So you have some areas that have a fairly extensive bulb out, or chicane, or whatever you want to call it, where the sidewalks bulb out and the crosswalks are smaller. It's a pedestrian safety thing. So some businesses went out into these bulb outs, and a neighboring business that may not have given a letter of permission complained because people who were driving down the street, walking down the sidewalk, weren't able to see into their business. And it looked, at least in some businessman's mind, or business owner's mind, that it appeared like they weren't open for business, or it may have had a detrimental effect on their business. So what happened this year, we've talked to folks, let them know that without that signed letter, there won't be any interpretation that allows any sort of expansion in front of somebody else's business. As I indicated, especially with the contiguous issue, when you have a apartment and a doorway into the public right-of-way that may be in between two businesses, if you expand that sidewalk cafe over that doorway, then you've got people who need to get up to their apartment or their business. So we would need to address that as well. Again, that's when you get back to the contiguous argument, or contiguous discussion as to whether that prevents alcohol from being served in that area as well. So just more of a regulation of making sure that we have a signed letter from adjoining business.
And did that answer your question?
I think so. Can I restate what I think you said, and you can tell me if I understood correctly?
Yes.
So without the signed letter of explicit permission of the neighboring business, there won't be any interpretation that allows an expansion in front of their space.
No, that's exactly correct. That is where, in our attempt to be as flexible as possible last year, it actually was not well received by some neighboring businesses. We want to prevent that from happening again.
That's good.
I'm going to go to Gina, and then I'll come to you, Sandra.
I asked, my question, I think that problem was exacerbated by the bulb out in that area last year, and so I hope that it is just super duper clear and we'll avoid that problem again.
Sandra.
Gary, how does enforcement work on that? How will it work?
If there is,
If it looks like someone has encroached into someone else's
then the city
part?
clerk will contact the business and make sure that they're within their permitted area.
And then if they're not, what are the next 3 steps if then that doesn't happen? Are they fined? Is a permit taken away?
We would revoke their right to operate a business within the public right-of-way.
Okay, thank you.
And did you have another question?
Yeah, I just had one more follow-up. So what would be the process for a business to acquire that from a neighboring business? Would they just work with that neighbor directly?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Those were all my questions.
Yeah, just a question on timing relative to the unanswered legal questions. Is there anything that if we say, yes, we approve this resolution for tonight, is there anything left hanging with those legal issues with the Idaho State Patrol, ABC guys, things like that, that would interfere with the resolution as it stands?
No, our authority to regulate alcohol comes from the state. So all the resolution says is that we will, in fact, I'll just quote it. The licensee shall amend its existing state, county, and city alcohol license information to include the licensed area, meaning it would have to meet all of their requirements, including it being a contiguous area. This section is being suspended in order to allow the city clerk, in exercising authority granted by the Idaho State Police, ABC, to allow temporary expansion of licensed areas if appropriate regulatory and safety measures are implemented. So we can only go with the authority that we have. The way it sits now, and Lori can correct me if I'm wrong, but if a business wants to change its licensed area, they need to send that down to the state. The state police will look at it and they will authorize it, or they won't authorize it. Because last year, you'll recall that we contacted the governor's office because we wanted to get this show on the road, and the governor's office helped talk to the state police, which helped allow us to have some flexibility. But it's a different year this year. We just want to make sure that we aren't misleading our businesses, that you can do something when in fact you put your license in jeopardy to do that.
And so sort of a follow-up on that relative to just sidewalk cafes in general, the example of the apartment door that might open up between two businesses where you sought and acquired permission from an adjacent business to expand further in front of them, but there's an apartment in between. Would that have any impact on what we're looking at here?
No, that same thing would apply. Again, the alcohol question is different from the sidewalk cafe question. So there are issues of ingress and egress. You wouldn't be able to block it. It would require permission of the building owner who owns that upper apartment if that were to be allowed, if safety allows that.
Yeah.
So that's something that we would check with our fire department, police department to make sure that that access is secured.
Cool.
I think what I'll do, is there anybody in public that would like to comment on this, that would like to testify in front of us on this sidewalk cafe? Okay, with that, we'll move forward. Gina?
Well, I'd like to commend our city clerk and staff for learning from our first year of this, and I appreciate the flexibility and responsiveness of the last year. And that being said, I move that we approve the proposed resolution.
Second?
Ann?
She seconded.
Okay, you're gonna get the second, Ann. Okay, we have a motion by Gina and a second by Ann to approve the proposed resolution. I will start to roll with Maureen.
Aye.
Art.
Aye.
Sandra.
Aye.
Gina.
Aye.
And Ann.
Aye.
Okay, all right, very good. Well, we'll move forward. Thank you very much on that. And that actually turned out, I just have one comment, because this has been a real long year. The next thing we're gonna talk about is our COVID-19 report that we've always said since we started the matrix thing, the second meeting of every month, we will be talking about COVID and where we're at and where we're sitting on it. But with that, we've had 1 year under our belt. Holy smokes, it's been an amazing thing, and actually, by the most part, I think our community's done pretty doggone good. It's been a long haul, and we're seeing light at the end of the tunnel. With that, Gary, I will let you lead right into the report.
Thank you. I have a little trouble getting my cursor here.
Happens to me all the time.
I was going to make a joke about Gary and cursing, never having trouble with it generally.
True.
I'd help you, Gary, but I'd make it worse.
There we go. Okay, I don't know why it disappears when it goes into the PowerPoint, but, okay, so, as council recalls, in, Council Resolution 2020-27, council extended the amended public health emergency order through the beginning of June in order to meet the end of the Moscow School District school year and also the end of classes at the University of Idaho. However, council also wanted to assure the public that there was some sort of metric being used as to, okay, what happens? Is this going to be forever? What basis does the council have for continuing it? Council adopted a metrics model in order to, yes ma'am, okay.
Share your screen because everyone can't see it.
Oh, okay.
I can't. This one? Nope, that's the resolution.
There it is.
That one. You're just gonna have to do it that way.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Okay.
If you push that one, that's big one, you could actually jump it up big.
Okay, so council adopted at that time for 3 basic metrics and a cascading plan, if you will, in order to look at, okay, if you meet the first metric, what about the second metric, what about the third metric, and what about the fourth metric? As you know, the North Central Health District adopted a regional data tool in order to measure whether District 2 was in the severe, moderate, or green, yellow, and red, essentially, just like a traffic signal. So council adopted those metrics, indicating that if for a period of 3 weeks, all of these metrics, individual metrics, are in the green, that they would consider taking the social distance, facial covering order off. So first, based on a 7-day moving average, new daily cases must be less than 1 per 10,000 population. For Latah County, that's approximately 4 or fewer daily cases. Then, based on a 7-day moving average, the number of confirmed COVID-19 admissions must be within the range of 0 to 5. And lastly, test results for COVID-19 must be reported in 1 to 4 days. Okay, so secondly, if 3 weeks of those metrics are in the green, and by the way, we had a very short couple-day period a couple of weeks ago where all 3 metrics were in the green, and then we had a small spike, if you will, where our daily cases exceeded 4 per day. Second criteria is that the governor's Idaho Rebounds Plan is in stage 4. We are currently in stage 3. And recommendations of Public Health Idaho North Central District, recommendations from our institutional partners, Latah County, Gritman, University of Idaho, and Moscow School District. And lastly, checking COVID conditions in Whitman County, since Whitman County, the border of our western border is at Whitman County. So, as you can see, this graph is, find the pointer. This graph, as you can see, this green line that is barely visible here is 4 per day. And as you can see, we spiked up a little bit. This is March 11th, so we're starting to come down again. And I've got the calculation on the next slide. So, Tier 1, the first thing that we look at is average cases per week. That's actually average cases per day, 4 or less per day. So on March 1st, we were at 12.14. The week of March 8th, we were at 10.57. And now, as of March 15th, we're 7.29. So as you can see, we're trending down. We've always been in the green for average days for test results, goal 4 or less, 4 days or less to get results. As you can see, we're talking just barely over a day to get test results, so we're clearly in the green there. Then regional hospitalizations by week, goal of 5 or less. You can see that just this week we fell below 5. So out of those 3 metrics, we are in the green on 2 of them. Now we're just waiting for the cases per day to drop to 4 or less. Tier 2, again, March 1st, March 8th, and March 15th, the governor has kept us in stage 3. The state looks like cases are also trending down, so my expectation is in the next several weeks we'll see the governor's office taking us to stage 4, but as of now it's still stage 3. Tier 3, we have not had any of our institutional partners contact us and say, okay, looks like it's a good thing to take off the amended public health emergency order, so that remains the same. And then, of course, I believe this is tier 4. This is Whitman County, and they calculate theirs a little differently than we do, but as you can see, in cases occurring in 100,000 population per 14 days, goal of 25 or less, you can see this clearly is trending up and it's in the red. Hospitalizations are calculated a little bit differently, but they're in the green. So as you can see, Whitman County is doing well as far as their hospitalizations, but not doing so well as far as their new cases. So as it sits now, we give a report at the second council meeting every month unless something happens before that. Right now, we are not in that. Spring break has just started. We are expecting that upon return, we may see a slight increase in cases. But as it sits right now, we're trending in the right way. If we can keep that up, then hopefully we'll be able to take another hard look at this in another month.
Well, one of the good things, as everybody knows, is we're in daylight saving time, hooray. So we don't get dark now until after 7, and so as the days get longer and longer and longer, it always seems to help with this nasty pandemic. The other exciting thing is that they've been running almost some days up to 3 million vaccinations a day in the United States, and that is they're doing a heck of a job of just continuing to pound these things out by the millions day in and day out. So, you get another month or 2 down the belt, and we're going to be in pretty good shape on those. Who knows where it'll take us, but it seems to me, by looking forward, the matrix and then looking at the vaccines that are available, they keep lowering the age and all these different things, and we know here it won't be very long. Anybody over 18 will be able to have vaccination if they so choose to take it. Marie, did you have a question?
No, I was just simply saying, and we also really encourage people to take those vaccines.
Oh, yeah.
Because they become more powerful, but the answer is we also need to make sure people
Yep. Sandra.
take them.
Oh, by the
And
way,
to-
I will
sorry.
make one comment. Excuse me, Sandra, for interrupting you. For everybody out there in viewing land, yes, I have taken my vaccines. I've got both shots. So just want to make that clear. So, yeah, well, yeah, but I'll let each person speak for themselves on that, Sandra.
And yes, I have. I also, it's important too, while things are getting lighter and happier and we're feeling better about how things are going, I still think we need to be vigilant. We can't just get so excited that, we go to a football game and just hang out with our friends unmasked and having a great time, or, go hang out with a bunch of people we haven't hung out with all Christmas, since last year, and have a good time and be unmasked and not be vigilant, because it's still important, if we do want to kick this soon, to keep doing these right things. I look at the things that Gary just shared with us, and it's really encouraging. I'm excited. And yet, we still have to be on top of it. Otherwise, it's just going to plummet. We're going to continue to be in this bad trap. So let's just stay on it.
Gina, do you have?
No, I'm cheering for what everybody said. Get your shots if you are so inclined, and please wear this mask until we're in the green.
Okay.
And I think we should also applaud the University of Idaho. They've done an amazing job.
I agree.
Yes, I have.
Keeping this, in class, in-person classes, and really on top of testing people and checking the water and keeping a handle on it. Amazing job.
Well, with that being said, too, Maureen, all of our partners, Moscow School District has done a wonderful job, and they're gonna be opening up to 4 days a week here, starting next week, right after the spring break. Hospital's been great to work with, so we've had a good collaboration with everybody on this, all of our partners. Excellent report, thank you, Gary.
Thank you, and thanks, Jen, for your work on that as well.
Okay, well, now it is time for reports. Art, you want to start? Do you have anything to report tonight?
I got nothing for you.
Okay, Sandra.
The Pathways Commission met, and they're getting ready. I'm not going to spill a whole lot of beans, because I know they're getting ready to give their annual report coming up. They've been doing some really nice things, and I also know that their chair, Jonathan, will be leaving soon, and so that'll be interesting. He's been up there for a long time.
Leaving the area?
Yes, he'll be headed, well, I'll let him share that with you.
Okay,
I don't want to steal any thunder.
Okay.
But they're doing good things, and they're excited for summer as well, and looking forward to tabling at Farmers Market and having Bike Week coming up and all these great things. And they encourage everyone, as always, to get on the trails and to go enjoy them either on your feet or on your bike or both.
Awesome. Gina?
I had two meetings. I had the Fair and Affordable Housing Commission, and I had Transportation, but then I was double booked, and so my friend Ann took the Transportation Commission for me. The Fair and Affordable Housing Commission is toiling away on the assessment of fair housing, analysis of impediments and survey questions. We're working really hard on that. Talked about Farmers Market Commission tables, you know, when we go and have a commission present at each of the farmers markets. That took an inordinate amount of time. I think we were all ready to go outside in our yards or something. So that's all I have to report, sir.
Okay. Ann, we'll go to you then.
Yeah, not a ton. I sat in on the tree commission, and then as Gina mentioned, the transportation commission, and the bulk of that meeting was taken up by the SEC's climate action working group, coming and talking about how that overlaps with transportation, which was a really nice discussion. And then just talking about the ongoing delays with the scooter program in town and what the university is doing about that.
Okay, thank you. And Maureen?
Okay, so I will say that P&Z, which is never usually sleepy, has been sleepy for the last couple months, and that we're just about to change that again and get really busy now that it's spring and things are happening. But the one thing they did do is look at an amendment to the outdoor lighting in order to allow lighting on public art. And there was a big thing, and they approved that, and we're moving on to new things. The Human Rights Commission on April 8th at 6 o'clock, they're going to put on a presentation on restorative justice, and there'll be 3 presenters. One will be talking about schools, its principal, and how that has totally reformed the school. It was a really tough school. One is a judge who's done a lot of restorative justice work in the judicial area, and then there is a man from the Nez Perce tribe that has been working diligently with youth there as well. So mark your calendars, April 8th, 6 o'clock.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Maureen. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Association Idaho Cities, which I am a board member. We sit in for a meeting every single Friday with the legislators, what they're doing, and we talk about it. And quite honestly, there wasn't a whole lot done this past week. And that's not a slant at anybody. And I want to just bring up the House Bill 1108, which was a property tax thing. There were some amendments in that, and it's just kind of going back and forth. One thing I will say is it looks like the legislative session is supposed to end next week, the end of next week. And it looks like these folks are going to recess for 2 months and come back in May and then decide what to do with the CARES monies that our state's going to get. So I have no idea how that'll all work out, but when it does come final, we'll find out and we'll have more to report on that. So with that, Gary, do you have any reports?
I just wanted to mention, as you know, the Rescue America plan has been unveiled and is starting to roll out. Totally different looking plan than the CARES Act, so we're still analyzing that, looking toward some of our national associations to help guide us through that process. Just got some information today on it, so as soon as we analyze that, we'll be able to come back to council and determine what that means to our citizens. I know there is some assistance for restaurants and small businesses, formerly called PPP. I don't know if that's what they're calling it again. There's also increased assistance for cities and counties that Not quite sure what that looks like yet, but we will be reporting on that as soon as we get that analyzed.
Okay, well, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session per Idaho Code 74206, 1B, C, and F. This meeting will not reconvene once our executive session is out.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Sandra made the motion, Gina seconded it. I'll start the roll with Maureen. Art? Sandra? Gina? And Ann? Okay, we will adjourn to executive session. Thank you very much, everybody. It is 8:10.